So far better. So I think we will carry on.
Yes, please.
Because Azita's having a few technical points, so she brought up many different references to Virya, including some that were just in connection with the Eightfold Path. And I think one reference with regard to Virya as enduring bodily unpleasant feeling. And you were just mentioning that the Buddha taught about Virya as a reality, not just a name, not just as a something to be experienced. And you were just saying that instead of Virya, what about what appears right now? So maybe you would like to carry on. Can you hear us, Azita? Okay.
Okay. Can you tell me a little more about Virya that you have read? So that we can consult or talk about it more.
Yes, Ajahn, I can. The first was Virya can be either Gusala or Agusala, but when we talk about Kanti, which is patience, which is apparently also Virya, that's one of the paramis. And then it goes higher, I guess I would say, in that it becomes, or it can be Samma Vayama of the Eightfold Path. That's okay, but the query I had was, there was a reference in the book on Parami to a sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. And if I may read it out, it's quite short. It's monks, on 3 occasions, ardent energy is to be exerted to prevent the arising of evil, unprofitable states not yet arisen, to cause the arising of good, profitable states not yet arisen, and to endure the bodily feelings that have arisen, feelings which are painful, sharp, bitter, acute, distressing, and unwelcome, which drain the life away. These are the 3 occasions. Now, when a monk exerts himself on these 3 occasions, he is called strenuous, wise, mindful, so that he can make an end of dukkha. And my puzzlement was in that little sutta. The first 2 made sense, but I didn't think the 3rd one fitted. So I'm a bit puzzled about it. Can you explain, please?
Before all, I think that I'd like to understand what is said about Virya as what is it? In order to understand the other aspects of Virya, but what is it in truth? It's real, it's a reality, but what is the difference between Virya and other mental factors? Otherwise, we don't know whether even right now there is Virya at what level.
So at this moment.
What is that we are talking about? Virya, a reality. When there's the understanding, there can be the understanding of where there is now, and it develops to different degrees, as you say, until it is Samma Vayama of the Eightfold Path. So what is the characteristic of Virya? What is it to be known that it's a reality? Everyone heard the word Virya and remembered the word Virya. It's a reality, one remember that. But there are so many realities. So what is the characteristic of that? Which is Virya? Not just a word, but the characteristic and its function. It's said in the book about the characteristic of Virya. I'd like to hear it again to understand whether it's there now, or whether it appears or not appear, and what is that which is now appearing, in order to understand Viriya when it's there appearing. May I ask someone?
Asita, we're not hearing you. Is your mic on?
It is now. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Well, I can read out to you, Ajahn, what it says. Energy has the characteristic of
Yes.
striving.
So it's a reality. At moment it is striving. Viriya is there striving, not other mental factor at all, right?
Correct.
But even right now, Viriya is there at what moment? Otherwise, we cannot begin to understand that it's there. So, how many moments, how many cittas arising with Viriya, and how many cittas does not arise with Viriya at all? By conditions. Nobody can change or arrange at all. So, usually, what we're talking about, the striving, the Viriya, arise with almost every citta. It doesn't arise with the ahetuka. How many ahetuka citta do not have Viriya arising together? And how many? In order to remember its moment of Manodvara Vachana and Hasitupada only, which Viriya arises with. So now at moment of seeing, no Viriya is there. But who knows, without hearing and considering, why seeing doesn't need to have Viriya to condition it to arise and so on. And even right now, some moments arises with Viriya and some moments arise without Viriya. But Viriya does not show up, but it's there as a reality because Citta needs so many mental factors to arise together to perform the function, each one as its characteristic. So Viriya is one, and who knows? The seeing does not have Viriya arising with it, but the moment of Manodvara Vachana is there. Because what is the vipaka, like the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, even it's not experienced as just a moment arising just to see with the seven cetasikas, but the other moment, like mind door, before they can be thinking or experiencing the object of mind door, there must be a reality which, like Panchadvara Vachana, which knows what is there. But Manodvara Vachana, no need to have the Panchadvara Vachana. That's why it takes Vitaka and also Viriya to just think because of memory about such and such object, sorry about what is now. It's there. Who knows? All this to understand that all dhammas are anatta. Nobody can make anything arise at all. They're so subtle. Who knows whether this moment there is Viriya and that moment without Viriya. So Viriya arises with akusla citta, right? And kusla citta and other citta besides these 16 ahetuka citta. We talk about what Buddha taught in order to understand the subtlety of our dhammas, that what can be known and what cannot be known at what time. That's why right now, even Viriya arises now, it performs its function. But when it's some moment, when it takes striving to strive as that no one at all, but at moment is conditioned by Viriya to study, to consider what is there. As it said, like now, there is a reality which experiencing an object, but how can it be known without Viriya? Consider more to see that it can be known with virya. Otherwise, without virya, how can it be developed to the degree that it can understand better and better about that which is now appearing? That's why even that is kusala at what level, intellectual understanding, is not yet the Bodhipakkhiyadhamma, which has to be with some satipatthana. When it's not satipatthana right now, we just talk about that, which is now appearing. It's not moment of being aware and understand that which is now appearing yet. Until then, by conditions. So there can be the understanding of the different degrees of virya. At moment, when it performs the function of manotavara vachana, can it be known? Hasitupatha only for arahata. Those who are not arahata cannot have such citta. So at moment of thinking, at that moment, how many cetasikas, including virya too, performs its function at moment of manodvara vachana, adverting to the object through mind door. And more than that, at this moment of hearing, considering, there must be virya too. And when it's wholesome, it is the level of virya which is not as usual as virya at moment of akusala. Try to get this, buy that, and so on, akusala virya. But when it's not akusala, it is virya to be kusala at moment of understanding, listening, trying to understand, consider it. It's function of virya too, but it's not known yet because it's only the intellectual understanding about it. It's not I at that very moment to let go the idea of self little by little. Then what is it? Virya is a reality right then at moment of developing the understanding of what is there now until it is satipatthana, and then there is viryansi, and more than that, when the object right now can be known naturally, it means that virya is so strong as from viryansi to the virya phala, and so on. To just understand what is there now as no one, little by little. Virya is not me, but it's that which is different from the other mental factors until it's known at that very moment, unexpectedly, what can be the object right then, not by anyone's will, but by conditions. When there's no understanding of what is there now, can there be the enlightenment of the truth that we are talking about? Without experiencing directly the arising and falling away by way of nimitta, can there be a moment of letting go doubt about that which is now arising and falling away? So each word of the teaching is the way to understand the truth, because whatever is now appearing or is there by conditions, so many different realities unknown, and it can be known when it's there appearing. So that's why to understand that even virya is not self, it's a mental factor, no shape, no form at all. And it's there now, performing its function. But when there's no direct awareness of it, how can it be known as it's not the other mental factor or citta at all? That's why the clear understanding, very firm understanding, letting go doubt about what is there now as something, can condition the moment to moment to directly experiencing the truth of what is there, little by little, one by one, naturally. Common life, normal life. Otherwise, it cannot be right understanding of the normal reality which is conditioned to appear right now. And this moment is viriya too. With our viriya, someone might think that why we do have to listen to whatever now appearing to understand it as it is. So there are akusala viriya and kusala viriya, and vipaka viriya and kiriya viriya too. Who knows? Just hearing, reading, considering, understanding little by little that actually they are different dharmas, no one there at all. This is the way the path developed on and on and on to understand what is there now as it is.
So when you say it can also be vipaka, which vipaka jitta would it arise with? Because it doesn't arise with seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching. Does it arise with patisanti jitta?
Yes,
So the
excuse me.
18,
Yes, I mean what kind of birth? Because what citta can perform the function of viriya. Even santirana can condition the moment of birth to be in the woeful plane. But what kind of citta is there, whether it has viriya arising with it or not? To be born in such plane, no need to have viriya. Like to be pushed by that karma, no need to have viriya to be away from that plane. That's why we learn about the details, so that there can be a little more understanding to develop the understanding of no self, firmer and firmer, little by little. And that is the way to let go, the clinging with ignorance, to take what is there as I or thing permanently, as it's there as a thing, or it's there as I or someone. Because that has been accumulated quite long time. So it has to be moment of this, whatever appears, without the right understanding of the characteristic of that, little by little, because it's so difficult, very hard to let go the idea of I see or ignorance, what is there. Even it's there, ignorance is there, no understanding that it's ignorance. And when it's akusala, is there viriya arising together? To be akusala.
If it's ignorance, well, I guess so. If it's, I'm not sure about ignorance, but I know it arises with agusla jittas, but with ignorance, I'm not sure.
Ignorant cannot understand ignorance, right? But hearing now, what is there? No answer, because it's ignorance which cannot know what is there.
Right.
And then when there's no answer, it's still I. If there's no hearing at all about what is there, there must be a citta for sure, experiencing that object. But what arises there? Ignorance, because it does not know the truth of it. It is there, unknown as it is. So we just look for ignorance. But is there any moment of whatever is there is not known as truth? To begin to understand what moment is ignorant. It's moment of do not understand what is there. It's there for sure, but what is it? No understanding. And after that, or it can be attachment to that object instantly. It's something there. even there's no word. But what is that? It's something, because it's there. The truth of it doesn't show up as it's gone, no more. That's why any time of whatever appears, and it is unwholesome moment, not understanding and wanting and craving or anger, by conditions, by accumulation, to begin to understand the truth of actually there's no self at all, is to understand the nature of that which arises and experience right then, at moment when something appears, even it's not known as what. But there must be the reality which experiences that, and no understanding of the truth of it is there. But when there is understanding from hearing, considering intellectually, there can be the understanding of it's a reality. And what at that very moment, or what is the truth of that very moment? Is there any understanding? Is there any attachment? Unknown until it's taught. It's there. And what experience that? Many cetasikas, many jittas arising together and falling away all the time, even right now, unknowingly. That's why to be truthful to the truth is understanding the words of the Buddha, is to let go ignorance and attachment and the other realities, unwholesome and so on. To see the danger of what is now just arises and falls away. As long as it's not known, there is attachment with ignorance, takes it for something all the time, and I experience it. I see, I like, I dislike. Viriya are there too. Unknown, who knows? The difference between Viriya and other cetasikas arising together.
So, Zita, whenever there's ignorance, the chitta is a kusala. It cannot be a hetuka because ignorance is a hetu. So, virya has to arise whenever ignorance arises. So, virya arises with every chitta except 16 of the 18 ahetuka chittas. Ahetuka means without the wholesome or unwholesome roots. The unwholesome roots are lobha, dosa, moha. So whenever lobha, dosa, or moha is there, or alobha, adosa, or panya is there, virya must be arising. So the ahetuka chittas, which arise without roots, are 8 are kusala vipaka, the 5 seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, the kusala vipaka, which is sampatichana, and the 2 santirana chittas, which are kusala vipaka. So those are the 8 kusala vipaka chittas that arise without roots. And the 7 akusala chittas that arise without roots, that are akusala vipaka, are the 5 seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the sampatichana, that is akusala vipaka, and the santirana, which is akusala vipaka. And when the santirana conditions birth, like in the animal realm or in a woeful plane, then that chitta arises without roots, because santirana chitta is always rootless. And then there are 3 kiriya chittas, which are also ahetuka, the panchadwara vajna, the adverting chitta, and the manodwara vajna chitta, and he has the tupata. And as Ajahn mentioned, the manodwara vajna chitta, it has to have virya arising with it, because it's the first chitta in the mind or process. It needs the virya to advert to its object in the mind or process. and the Hasitupata chitta of the Arahat has to have virya, but all the other Ahetuka chittas, 8 kusala vipaka, 7 akusala vipaka, and the Panchadwara Vajana chitta, none of them need virya to rise with them. So whenever it's kusala or akusala, virya must be there. And other kinds of kusala vipaka, like the birth in this realm with 2 or 3 roots, must have virya with it. But only those Ahetuka chittas don't need virya. And I think the point, as John mentioned, is just to see that it's so different, virya is so different from the idea we have of effort or energy or striving. Because what about at the moment of thinking with ignorance now? Virya must be there. Or what about at the moment of bhavanga citta in this realm? Virya must be there. So it arises at almost every moment in the day, no matter it's kusala, akusala, vipaka, or kiriya.
But I think Azita's question is really as to the selection of 3 specific instances in the sutta in which it says that Ada or virya should be exercised. And I think that the third one in particular, that is enduring painful bodily feelings, because painful bodily feelings, of course, are part of the general experience of life in samsara. And it's not clear why they specifically require the exercise of virya, which, of course, it's a reference to kusala virya, it must be, and also the reference to a bhikkhu exercising virya, ardor, in that particular situation.
This is when it's so helpful to understand about just the reality of virya, because, for example, at the moment when there is painful bodily experience, at that moment of vipaka, no virya at that moment, because like seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, it's just a vipaka citta, which is ahetuka, no virya at that moment. So it has to refer to the thinking and the dwelling on that painful bodily feeling, because usually when after there's been painful bodily feeling, there is dosa and thinking about the story about the painful feeling with many, many moments experiencing it through the mind or with akusala virya. So here it's referring to the kusala virya, is when reflecting on that painful feeling or thinking about it. Is it kusala or akusala citta? So the enduring has to be with kusala citta, kusala virya. Not anyone who can do anything, not a monk in truth that endures or does anything, but it's referring to the moments of understanding with kusala virya, that it's just a dhamma that has passed, arising and falling away, gone forever.
And it's understanding at that moment, not I will do this. There's a that one about to prevent the arising. It's not like, well, there's no self, there is no bhikkhu. So it's back to that. It arises when there is the prevention. It's not I will prevent this arising. But when there is abstinence at the moment of about to say something unpleasant, that's when it happens, not before, not with the intention. Would that be correct?
Right, like just now hearing of the sounds, hearing unpleasant sounds moments of akusala vipaka, but it's just for a moment without virya. What about the kusala citas that understand? It's just sound that's heard, that's come and gone. And at that moment of understanding, it is the preventing of akusala. The sati is guarding from akusala arising. When there's understanding, when the kusala citta, there cannot be any akusala. And it also conditions more kusala cittas to arise for a moment and then gone. So it's all about now.
Yes, that became also a bit clear to me, because on Saturday there was a discussion about going to the holy places, and it's not going to the holy places to have kusala. It's while you're there, while there can be the arising of sadha and thinking of the Buddha and stuff, but it's not going there to do it. But if you're there, that may happen or it may not happen.
Just like now,
Yeah,
when there's the interference, is there disappointment and expectation, or is there understanding here and now? It's just sound. It's just what the Buddha taught about different realities that are conditioned and fall away instantly. No one here, no one experiencing anything, but it's just the world at this very moment.
Yes.
And I think what that sutta you're alluding to, Zita, we don't know the situation. The Buddha, in his wisdom, was obviously speaking to that particular monk. We don't know the circumstances. That hasn't come out as far as I understand of the way the sutta goes regards the unpleasant bodily feeling. I haven't, I don't know what the context of that sutta is, but he could have been experiencing that. And that is a reminder, and the Buddha is giving him a reminder about the nature of Dhamma and to develop understanding.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably right. I don't know, but yes, thank you.
I mean, the first two are mentioned in the 4 Samapadas also. So I think we should understand that the third one is also about understanding, as Sarah's saying, that it's just a reality.
And I think it's also a good point, Sarah, that you pointed out that the actual experiencing of unpleasant bodily feeling is one jitta, that bodily at the moment of the Gaya Vijnana. So, and then it goes to mind or so it's quite well, the only word I can think of, quite amazing. So look, thank you everybody for helping me out with this. I think also there's another one that somebody used to bring up about, well, I also read it in one of the suttas, can't remember which one, but how a monk should examine himself in the morning, in the middle of the day and at night regarding his behavior. And again, that's the same thing. You don't, I thought about it, or maybe I should do that. And I went, hey, that's a practice. So if it happens, that's when it's kusala. That's when, when there's, or possibly when there's an examination of behavior. So it does all point to now, that's for sure. So thank you for the wonderful help. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, if it's I examining in order to understand me and my thoughts and my energy, then it's just the story of myself. It's not the understanding of dhammas at all. So whatever we read, it has to be about the understanding of dhammas as dhammas, not dhammas belonging to me, not I in the dhammas, not my dhammas. They're just different dhammas that arise and fall away. Moment of bodily painful experience. Two more vipaka citas also are hetuka, votapana kiriya citta, and then mind or citas, countless mind or citas thinking and dwelling about on the pain, taking it for me, taking it for mine, but actually they're just dharmas arising and falling away.
When
So-
you talk about examining, examining, it's very easy to take that as examining my behavior and not look at it as jittas. Question. I just said something. Did anybody hear that? I don't need a response. I'm just wondering if it was heard.
Yes, I heard you, Anne.
Thank you. As I say, I don't need a response.
No matter what we use the word practicing or examining, what is it?
Well, if there's the idea of I'm practicing or I'm examining, that's incorrect. That's wrong, because that's inserting an I in there. I can examine, I can practice, and that's not the Buddha's teachings.
So when there is the understanding of the truth, the word we use is according to the nature it is, not self, but it's kusala or akusala, right? Reality. They are there all the time, but they are not known as not self. Practicing or examining, but the understanding develops little by little. That's the way to understand the truth of what we use the word practicing, whether it's correctly or incorrectly. That's why the understanding is the most important, because no matter how much we can understand the term, the word about virya and so on, they're all forgotten. But the truth is that can it or does it condition the moment of not forgetting to understand what is there as it is? And not I at all, but so many different realities arising and falling away. So even we heard about the many cetasikas, different characteristics, but what are they now? And what can be developing the understanding moment of that which is now appearing as it is? Without those intellectual understanding, there's no condition to understand it. The point is to understand it. Without understanding the characteristic which now appearing, it's impossible to understand the words like virya and khanti and so on, because what is there is not known yet, as is not self. That's why even right now, when there's no moment of beginning the developing, or no matter what word you use, to understand that, the reality which experiences, and it has to pinpoint what at all. By conditions, it can be anything, anytime, and that's the way to begin to understand more about anatta. No one can make it. Even at moment of I do, but what about the understanding of that which no one make it arises, but it's there already? No understanding of that which is now appearing and thinking that I do. See, no understanding of that I do and that which appears. That's why it's so subtle to understand that each word should bring about to understanding what are there in life little by little, because even there's the understanding of the word intellectual understanding, but what is there now from moment to moment? It depends on conditions, whether it's object of memory about the truth that, oh, it's hard, that's all, little by little, because that is by conditions, no one there at all. So the development of right understanding is not doing anything at any time or any proper place at all. It's now. So there can be the understanding of the path that no one can do anything because there must be the firm confidence of the truth that no one right now or any time. And that develops little by little in daily life, and it will stronger and stronger. And it can see how there can be a little more acquainted with that which appears as it is, hardness, see? Just hardness, it's not remembered. But when there more understanding, hearing about it, even that should be known, otherwise ignorance is there. No selection to just want to experience Viriya or Kanti and so on. But what is there can be known because it's so real. It's conditioned by its proper condition to be such and then gone. This is the truth. For any time, any situation, depending on conditions, the accumulation of right understanding to condition moment of just attend to the characteristic which is there, as that is real, but it's not known yet because no attention to it, no awareness, because without right understanding, how can there be awareness of the characteristic of that which appears as only that appears in the world, no other reality at all, beginning to understand just one characteristic at a time, that it's only that which appears from moment to moment, one characteristic at a time. So we learn to understand what is there, to understand when it's there as just that which is hard, or the experiencing of hardness, no one there at all, no world and no thing, little by little, until it's clearer and clearer, and it's panya, which is clear, not doubt or ignorance or clinging or wanting at all. That's the way to understand what we have heard about ignorance or viriya and so on. And this is what people take it for, practicing, but no understanding what is the understanding of that as it is. It's not practicing by anyone, but it's the development of understanding right now, which can condition naturally what is there, on and on, from moment to moment, from now to next moment, until it's strong enough to let go what is there taken for something as usual, little by little. So natural, very naturally. Right now, no one doing anything at all. Ignorance or viriya, to understand that, which experiences at moment of beginning to understanding the reality which experiences. It's not that which is experienced, it's known. But the characteristic of the experiencing now, which experience is there, begin to reveal the truth, what is meant by experiencing. Otherwise, there must be doubt and the idea of I or someone and something, because the world does not appear as it is yet. What is the truth of the world? Not many things around, but only one reality is a world. Without that, there's no world at all. So there has to be letting go the idea of things and people and all around, because it has been accumulated to have such thought about what is there. But it's not the understanding of the reality which is now appearing until hearing about what is there. No I at all. The experiencing, only that hasn't been directly penetrated to the truth that what is it? It's just the moment, the reality which arises, otherwise there cannot be a moment of experiencing anything at all. Little by little developing from time to time, from life to life, years and years, until right understanding is so strong and clear that no one can change it to not understanding that which is now appearing, which has been developed from moment to moment, little by little, from day to day, from life to life. That's why in this life, who knows how much understanding of the truth of what is there. Only the person, only right understanding can tell truthfully. And this is the study of what is there. Learning to understand it little by little, from hearing and considering. And that is developing by itself, by conditions, to be conditioned for the higher understanding, clearer understanding in life naturally. Otherwise, as long as there is still taking something as I, or people and things in life, it means that right understanding of that moment is not yet enough to let go that idea. And this is a subtlety of the all four Ariya Satya, including the path, the moment of understanding, stage by stage, little by little. And no matter what is there now, unexpectedly, because nothing can be done, no one can do anything at all. By conditions, the world goes on, life goes on, non-stop. As long as there are conditions for what to arise, it has to arise. Until the end of conditions, to condition any moment of whatever arises anymore, for sure, for good.
John, on the point about enduring and Kanti, which Zita brought up earlier, we know that often we can talk about patience as an aspect of virya. And we've discussed before that when it's strong patience, for example, it might be strong patience putting up with the painful feeling, or strong patience queuing up for an ice cream. It can be kusala or akusala. Usually it's akusala, but when there's understanding, it's kusala. And usually, as Zita mentioned, when we read about Kanti, it's usually in the context of Kanti Parami or Kanti Jnana. It's in the context of strong, wholesome patience. But you've mentioned before that it can also be referring to the strong patience when it's akusala, such as putting on one's shoes, for example. It can take a lot of patience if one's elderly to put on one's shoes. But it's virya cetasika. Can we refer to that as Kanti when it's akusala as well?
As there are so many words for attachment or lopa, there can be many words for different level of virya too.
And so Kanti can refer to kusala or akusala patience when it's the virya is strong enough.
But when it's parami, it has to
Then
be,
it has to be kusala, yes.
yeah,
Yep. But
much
when it's
more
just
than the akusala, because it has to go against the kernel of akusala. For example,
Sarah, what other word would you use for such uh, a such such situations where the example you gave, when there's with akusala, trying to do something, being patient. So I think there's no other word for it. So kanti may be the word, but it has a different meaning.
I just brought it up because in one of the discussions I mentioned it and discussed this, but some people, including your son, were disagreeing. So I just wanted to double check that what I'd said was correct. And that's right. And I think a monk that was with Azita at the same time said, oh no, it was wrong what I had said. But so I just wanted to confirm that it can be used in this context too, because everyone just assumes it's always wholesome, but actually when it's very strong, like strongly enduring, painful feeling with gritted teeth, usually it's a kusala kanti at those times.
I mean, even the English word you just use, enduring, we'd like to think that enduring is kusala, but what other word could you use? Enduring, right? Even in
usually it's enduring with akusala. So even when we read this sutta about enduring unpleasant feeling, it doesn't mean just putting up with it and keeping quiet. It means understanding right then and there that it's just Dhamma. So quite different from the normal conventional meaning. Has to refer to kusala kanti, kusala realities.
One aspect I think it would be interesting is that like kanti, like parami are with understanding. So there is kanti with understanding, and there is, there could be kanti without understanding, but that would still be kusala. Like there is all the other paramis can be pre-parami or sub-paramis. Meaning they would still be kusala, but they would be without understanding. So I think
conditioned by understanding.
That could be the case for kanti too. It could be kusala, but without understanding. But I'm not sure about being a kusala.
Well, that's why, because
the word kanti itself probably points to what we call patience. I mean, many that manifest in our actions as certain way. Like if there's kanti, as in a barami, in the case of the bodhisattva, that he endured the pain, when he was a bodhisattva. That's kusala, and that's with panya. And then there's kanti, as you say, with kusala, but without panya. And then there's kanti, that's akusala, because it's manifest on the outside as enduring. Like any normal person who hasn't heard Dhamma would bear pain, but although we who have heard the Dhamma, we know that it's akusala, but what else to call it? We call it kanti, or enduring,
The word patience, or virya, because it's an aspect of virya. So the patience can be a little patience or very strong patience. It can be kusala or akusala. So that's why Ajahn gave the example of putting on the shoes, strong patience, but mostly akusala. Akusala kanti, not kusala. And I think the examples you give of kusala which is parami or sub-parami without understanding, but it has to be conditioned by understanding. Otherwise, it couldn't be parami or even sub-parami. So it has to be the kusala conditioned by understanding. For those who have never heard about the truth, however much kusala, it can never be parami.
Yeah, it's the example Sukin was giving about Kanti as kusala, but without understanding, like having effort to like maybe for actually it's not very clear. Sukin, can you explain a bit more about?
No, I couldn't think of anything, but just assume that you know what you were referring to. But right now, I can think of, for example, if you were to you had an intention to help someone, say a beggar, and you want to give him something, and then you go near him and he's smelling very bad. At that moment, there's kusala, and you do it. So I assume that may be an example of patience without understanding.
Yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense. Thank you. And also another parami, Ajahn, it's satcha. It's not easy for me to think of such a parami without understanding, just as kusala, like a kusala deed, but not without any understanding, because satcha by definition means understanding that the truth is needs understanding to be to know about satcha. But maybe it's I'm not sure.
Satya is to be truthful to the truth. For example, what we are listening now is the truth, but at moment of understanding the truth, what for? Not just hearing and remembering, but to understand that it can be realized because it's so true. And that is Satya Barami. Never be shaken to think that it's this way or this way, to understand this and that without understanding what is now appearing. That is not Barami. So Satya is the truth of what is there to be known, because only Panya can understand the truth of whatever appears now. So the Satya Barami is the moment of being truthful to that which is now so true. No self, no one, seeing, conditioned, arising and falling away, and never to return. Not just seeing whatever is there in life, any moment, is Satya to be known. So the Panya knows that it's not easy at all to realize the truth, but it's there. So only right understanding develops, and letting go attachment to that which is so true, to know the truth, and that is Satya Barami, just to realize the truth, experience directly the truth, because it can be realized, it can be enlightened, as no one and no thing at all. It's not just there's no me, but what about the understanding of this very moment, whether it's I see, I think or not? That's why without Satya Barami, it's impossible to realize the truth as it is right now. That's what we just think about it, not I. Our reality is that and this and so on. But the truth is that what is that which sees as no one and no thing, and not me or anyone. And this is such a moment of understanding little by little. It is Viriya Barami, Khanti Barami, Satya Barami, Nekama Barami, Adhidana Barami.
Yes, it makes really sense with Panya. It makes everything makes sense, and it's so natural to progress in the right way, I think.
Last week when we were discussing about adhitthana and being steadfast and unshakable and resolute, and talking about the importance of Satya Parami together with adhitthana. And then afterwards, I was remembering having read in the Charya Pitaka about the 4 adhitthanas, the 4 firm foundations, and they are Satya, relinquishment, chaga, the relinquishing of akusala, the calm or peace, the upasama, the calm from clinging to sense objects, and panya. So it shows how interrelated they are, because without these 4 adhitthanas, then adhitthana parami cannot develop. And so it has to develop together with Satya Parami and Panya and calm and so on. So I think when we talk about the paramis, we have to talk about them together and together with Panya. So even though there can be moments of kusala without Panya, if it hasn't been conditioned by the Panya, the truthfulness, then it cannot ever be parami. However much kindness or generosity there is, if it's not the relinquishment of akusala with understanding, it will never become a parami. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the subtlety of the teachings. Without Panya, it's like it would be much more easier, but it wouldn't take to anywhere but anywhere near the truth at all. Still be just the conventional truth, and everything would be conventional and ignorance.
The idea of my enduring, or my understanding the truth, or my giving up and relinquishment, my solitude and understanding. Yes.
Would be just as.
But Sarah, but this conditioned, the kusala conditioned by understanding can also, does not necessarily mean just the understanding at that moment of the kusala as Dhamma, not self, but it can be conditioned by past accumulated panya also, isn't it?
Right, there can be moments of relinquishment moments of kanti that have been conditioned by understanding in the past, conditioning that patience to develop and accumulate, even if it's not with panya at each moment when it arises, but without the understanding as a foundation to condition it, then it can never be parami, no matter whether that panya is arising at the same moment or previously, but it has to be conditioned by understanding and truthfulness.
This has really opened up the whole thing of realities conditioning each other, which, you know, I don't think about very much, but this has really shown that if there's not one, then the other doesn't operate. So they're very intertwined, even though they all have different functions, but they don't function without each other. So thank you, everyone. It's been very wonderful.
And they condition each other at the same time and at different times, different together by Sahajata Pachya, and at different times by Pakatu Upanisya Pachya. So the understanding that has developed affects and conditions one's way of living and one's attitude to life at other times. So the effect can be at the same moment or later in the day as well.
Well, I notice we've reached time, so I don't know if we're stopping at our regular time or going over. But do we know?
Jan needs a rest.
Yeah.
Very good comment, Supin. I agree. Okay,
Yes.
so we shall close.
Actually, I have to go out. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ajahn.
Thank you very much, Ajahn.
Just a shorter discussion